Most freelancers, self-employed people, independent contractors, sole proprietors, and small businesses are struggling right now due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But we have resources and tools to get thousands of dollars of cash into our bank accounts from the stimulus package. Though you need to take immediate, aggressive, and focused action to set yourself up for success in the long run for your freelance career. This video, as of right now, is your number one to-do list. This video is your guide to freelance survival. In this video, we're going to cover the ins and outs of a ton of programs, like the boost to the unemployment benefits. We're going to talk about the Paycheck Protection Program. We're going to talk about the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, just to name a few. This video is specifically angled toward independent contractors and sole proprietors with no employees. You just work for yourself in the United States, though a lot of this information does cross over into small businesses. I have researched all of this stuff extensively, and I've linked all of my resources below for you to check out. I encourage you to do your own due diligence. I encourage you to do all of this. I encourage you to do all of this now. You need to make this a priority. If you're digging this video, click the thumbs up. The deadlines to file and pay federal income taxes has been extended to July 15th, 2020. If you're not aware of estimated payments as a freelancer, you can watch my video about it that I will link above, and it will be linked below. But basically, you will not have to pay your first quarter of estimated taxes on April 15th like you normally would. It's been deferred, so you can keep that money in your pocket for the time being. And to make sure, I went to pay my taxes on the IRS website as a freelancer, and I see the text reading tax deadline changed. So for me, this confirms that freelancers do not need to pay estimated taxes until July 15th for 2020. But be aware that you might need to make a payment for quarter one and quarter two come July 15th. So as we get closer to July 15th, keep an eye on that, how they're going to handle the payments for Q1 and Q2. I canceled my payment online for April 15th for the time being, which is allowing me to keep more cash in my bank accounts, and that should happen for you guys too.
Yeah, man!
If you like what you're hearing, subscribe below. The vast majority of people in the United States will be getting a single economic impact payment. The full amount of this payment will be $1,200 for an individual or $2,400 for married couples and up to $500 for qualifying children. Tax filers with an adjusted gross income up to $75,000 for individuals and up to $150,000 for a married couple filing joint returns are going to receive the full payment. If you filed a tax return for either 2019 or 2018, the IRS will automatically put you in the queue for the payment, and the IRS will begin distributing that money to everyone with basically no action required for the vast majority of people in the next 2 weeks. So that money's just gonna hit your account. If you are concerned about having not filed a tax return for them to then calculate the payment with, don't worry about that, because IRS is saying that these economic impact payments will be available throughout 2020. So you can get your 2019 return in and still get this payment later on in the year. This is cash money being directly deposited into the same banking account reflected on your return that you filed with the IRS in the past.
Winner!
If any of that information doesn't apply to you and those are not your circumstances, check out the link in the resources on the IRS website. They have a lot of the situations outlined and they have a ton of answers for you. And if the IRS doesn't have your direct deposit information, the Treasury Department plans to build a web-based portal for individuals to be able to put their banking information into that so the IRS can then give you a payment directly online. If you're finding this helpful, please share this video with someone else who will also find it helpful. Unemployment is getting a boost from the federal government, but it's still managed at a state level, which means that you will need to research what is happening in your state specifically. On a national level, the stimulus package does increase unemployment assistance in every single state by $600 a week for up to 13 weeks. And this does include self-employed workers. So if you're a freelancer, this does include you as long as you are unable to work due to COVID-19. So hopefully we will see self-employed people being able to apply in every state and gain unemployment benefits at a state level, plus the additional $600 for 13 weeks in benefits that's being boosted from the stimulus package. For example, in January of 2020, the average unemployment benefit was $385 a week nationwide. If we add in the $600 boost from the stimulus package, we can bring the average weekly unemployment check to $985. It's going to be different for every state, so look into it for your state. If you qualify in the state that you live in, you may be able to receive up to 39 weeks of unemployment benefits, with 13 of those weeks including the extra $600 from the stimulus package. Also keep in mind that you can be paid retroactively for claims starting on March 29th in most, if not all of the states. How to apply is going to vary by state. I know that for Washington state, I found out that they're revamping their system to help handle self-employed people and that it should be open to self-employed people by mid-April. They offered to put me on an email list that will keep me notified about when this opens up, and then I can apply online. Trying to apply before your state is ready is just going to result in a rejection because the system is not built to handle freelancers applying at this point. So look up your state and follow those guidelines. Get on an email list if your state has that. And if they're ready for freelancers to apply, apply now. And if you can't apply yet, then you should definitely get your books in order and organize the following in order to make the application process easy and efficient when you can apply. Gather copies of your 1099s from the last year. Pull together bank records showing deposits and checks. Pull together a profit and loss from last year. Any additional earning information, like for example, I earn some money selling Freelancer and filmmaking tools on nixfort.com. So I will pull together that earnings statement. Put together a statement showcasing how the coronavirus pandemic has impacted your freelance work negatively. For example, I have emails from all of my clients from February and March postponing and canceling hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue for Q1 and Q2 this year. And I'm going to put that all together as evidence that I have losses due to this virus. You also want to make sure you have your social security number ready. You want to have your mailing address ready. You want to have the names and addresses and phone numbers of all of the people that you've worked for during the last 18 months. You might want to put together a timetable for the dates that you worked for each company. All of this information may not be needed, but just keep in mind that it's not very clear at this point how each state is going to figure out how you qualify or if you qualify as a self-employed individual. So just be smart about researching your state before and during the application process, and be prepared as you go into that application process with as much information that you can have to make your case when you do apply. If you're looking for valuable tools to help you become a successful freelance filmmaker, I have a ton at nixfort.com/shop. Producer kit, contract kit, client kit, pricing worksheet, cinema LUTs, all that good stuff. Go check it out. As freelancers, we have two good options for loans from the stimulus package. The payment protection loan, also known as the PPP loan, and the economic injury disaster loan, also known as the EIDL loan. One of the loans has a grant element and the other has a forgivable element. In layman's terms, you can leverage both of these loans to get money for your small business, including if you only work for yourself as a single person.
Yeah, man!
Let's compare these loans through a lens for freelancers. PPP is intended to guarantee freelancers the loans they need to cover 8 weeks of payroll along with some utility and rent costs. The regulation defines payroll costs as wage, commissions, income, or net earnings from self-employment or similar compensation. So basically, payroll for freelancers means how much you pay yourself. EIDL is a grant program that should provide up to $10,000 in an emergency advance that self-employed people will not need to pay back. And then it also offers low interest loans to freelancers that you can use to cover operating expenses, though you will need to repay that part of the fund. That part is a loan. Both of these programs are first come, first serve. Also, applying does not mean that you have to take the loan. So every freelancer should apply for these programs, especially to take advantage of the grant element and the forgivable elements of the PPP loan. The Trump administration has said that they will ask Congress for more money if this happens, but Congress will have the final say. So there is some urgency around taking advantage of these programs sooner than later. The PPP loan went live April 3rd for small businesses and nonprofits. For freelancers, another application is supposed to go live on Friday, April 10th. I called my bank already to let them know that I want to apply, and they put me on a list for applying. And for now, I am just going to prepare by calculating my payroll costs for myself, how much I pay myself. And I'm actually going to give you an example based on the Small Business Administration guidelines so you can do this for yourself. So first, we need to calculate your payroll cost for the last 12 months. The last 12 months is being interpreted in two different ways right now. So talk to your bank and find out what that means for them. It might mean the preceding calendar year, or it might have specific dates. So figure that out. Anyways, we need to figure this number out. So we're going to take our gross revenue, our total revenue for 12 months. Let's imagine that's $200,000. And we're going to subtract any cost of goods sold. So any subcontractors that we hired, let's imagine that's $90,000. And then we're going to subtract any business expenses. So let's imagine that's $20,000. And then that's going to give us our net self-employment income of $90,000. Then we need to take the net self-employment income of $90,000 and divide that by 12 months, giving us our average monthly payroll cost of $7,500. Then take our average monthly payroll cost of $7,500 and we multiply that by 2.5, which equals $18,750. There is a final step if you have already received an EIDL loan and grant. I'm going to link below to an example for you to check out if that's your situation. As of right now, I don't know anyone who's received an EIDL loan or grant, so I'm not going to do that example, but there is an example for you to check out if that is the case in the resources below. The EIDL application took me 20 minutes to complete. The link is below to the SBA website where you can go apply. The application will be different for everyone, but there's a couple tips and sort of like general advice for most freelancers that I'm going to share with you. If you are a freelancer, most likely you're going to check the sole proprietorship box. Your trade name will also most likely be your business name. Your gross revenue is the total amount of money you brought into your business during this 12-month period. And the cost of goods sold refers to the direct costs of producing the goods sold by you. This amount could include the cost of materials and labor directly used to create the good. It excludes indirect expenses such as overhead, sales, and marketing. For example, I hire an editor to edit a film for my client. The cost of that editor to me will be a cost of goods sold. Versus if I spend $10 a month on hosting my portfolio website, that's an advertising expense, and that is not a cost of goods sold. You're probably going to leave this entire section blank. And the red indicates that these fields are mandatory. And if you only work for yourself, then you will have 0 employees. And the rest of this should be pretty self-explanatory. For the PPP loan, you need to have been freelancing as of February 15th, 2020. For the EIDL, you need to have been freelancing as of January 31st, 2020. For both, you need to showcase that the economic fallout from the coronavirus has negatively impacted your freelance work to be able to qualify. PPP loans are mainly aimed at covering payroll costs, which as a freelancer would be paying yourself. But you can also utilize these loans for utilities, for rent, for healthcare benefits, and interest on mortgage payments if they are related to your freelance business. EIDL can be used to pay rent and mortgage payments, salaries, and business operational needs. As you can see, there is definitely crossover between the two loan programs. So if you qualify for both loans, you can use them both as long as you don't use them for the same purpose. For example, you can't use both PPP and EIDL to pay yourself a salary. For a smaller operation like a sole proprietorship, aka Freelancer, the EIDL loan is looking a little bit more attractive because it seems to have less rules around the loan and how it's forgiven versus the PPP loan, but I'm definitely still applying for both. And they can both work together. For example, let's say you qualify for both programs and you get $5,000 from EIDL and you get $10,000 from the PPP. You might use $1,000 a month to pay the rent on your photography studio space from the EIDL loan for like 5 months. And you might use $1,250 a week to pay yourself a salary for 8 weeks from the PPP loan. And this would use both loans. They would be forgiven and you wouldn't have to pay back any of the $15,000 you qualified for. This is going to be dramatically different for everyone. So you need to look at your situation and try to distribute the money to optimize the loan forgiveness for yourself. If you qualify, please make sure that you fully research and understand the terms of the loans and the elements for forgiveness and the elements for repayment. Parts of both the EIDL program and the PPP program are entirely forgivable, but other parts are not. So use this information to strategize so you can optimize how much money you get and you do not have to pay back versus having loans and having interest on those. For the PPP, you should begin preparing documents that demonstrate your monthly payroll and operational costs, including rental contracts. You will also want to gather your 1099 forms. You will want to get your income and expenses for your freelance business put together, aka a profit and loss statement. You also want to gather your bank records. And then as you move forward, if you get the loan and you do it, make sure you keep good documentation because the loan forgiveness process is going to need that information also. And do not forget that in order for this to be forgiven, no more than 25% of the PP loan proceeds can be spent on non-payroll costs. For the EIDL grant and loan, have your documentation ready to show your operating expenses and your revenue. What do you think? Drop a comment below. If you have federal student loans, you most likely have the option to stop making payments on them for 6 months from April through September. And during that time, no new interest will accrue. AKA come September, you will owe exactly the amount that you did when you stop making those payments. How to strategize around this varies, but I'm going to give you 2 common scenarios. Also a note before is that the federal relief program does not apply to borrowers with private student loans. Needs to be federal. First, let's say you have the money to pay your federal student loan, but you might lose income or deplete your savings by paying this student loan over the next few months. If this is the case, you should take advantage of the automatic student loan forbearance starting immediately. Then leverage the money that you're not spending paying the loan for the next 6 months and create an emergency fund that you can put towards other essentials during this time period, like food and housing costs. Second scenario, maybe you still have a secure job and you still have income coming in and you don't foresee that changing into the future and you have a healthy safety net of cash in place. Then you get to take advantage of making student loan payments that will not be accruing new interest for 6 months. So you get to pay on a loan on the principal balance with no new interest. So that's going to help you pay for your loan faster, which is awesome. And below, I linked an article that outlines 8 different scenarios regarding student loans. So if you don't fall neatly into those 2, then dig into that piece and strategize from there. If you're finding this helpful, please share this video with someone else who will also find it helpful. There are a lot of additional resources to explore as a self-employed professional. For example, you can go check out the Facebook grant or the GoFundMe Small Business Relief Fund or Amazon's Neighborhood Small Business Relief Fund. I'm gonna link below to all of these different things, plus an article from Forbes that outlines your money and coronavirus, a financial protection guide. And that has a ton of other resources for you guys to check out. Also, take the time to do a search on Google for your state, for your county, for your city, and see what's available to help locally for freelancers and small businesses. As I'm watching this, I'm realizing that there is another level of free stuff and ways to get money during this time period, and that is competitions. There's so many competitions and challenges out there that you can enter and participate in. And I actually was reached out to by Gear Focus. They're a website where you can sell and buy gear. And they're doing a competition right now. It ends at the end of this month, April 30th. And you basically make a short film, 90 seconds or less, focusing on the good. And if you win $1,000 in cash, plus gear, including the new Peter McKinnon backpack. And second and third place has prizes too. And the internet is filled with challenges and competitions and stuff like this. So look around. If you want to participate in that one, I will link it below. And also another thing you can do that would help generate some revenue for yourself would be to sell some gear. If you need to sell some gear, you might want to look at Gear Focus. It's new to me. I just looked into it. I just signed up for myself because I'm interested in selling some equipment. And if you're in a lucky, fortunate position to buy some equipment, I bet you can get some really good deals on equipment right now. So explore the internet, find all of the deals that you can find, and just make sure that you do all this stuff as soon as possible. Bring the heat, bring the heat.